Do you want to see one of the dumbest controversies I've observed MAGA try to invent in recent weeks? Well, I have it for you. And interestingly, I'm going to show you that this sparked a resurfacing of a clip of Newsom and Charlie Kirk talking. What? I'll explain it. But first, Newsom was at an event, I guess in Atlanta, and said something that he says a lot. He goes, hey, I didn't get a super high score on the SAT. I'm no different than many of you in that I didn't overperform in education in some crazy way. And he tries to relate with people by pointing to his SAT score. Honestly, I can't even remember the SAT measuring system. I don't know if I ever took it. So I guess this is a low number. He's saying 960 SAT. Okay. And let me just play the clip for you, and then I'll tell you what caused this to go mega viral and why I think it's ridiculous anyone is pretending to be outraged over it.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. And I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech. Maybe the wrong business to be in.
So he's discussed a ton in the past at a bunch of different events. His dyslexia, how that impacted him as a child, how he feels like that informs resilience, and he sort of uses it as a characterizing factor to demonstrate that he's maybe more down to earth than you think when you look at him and picture like this slick politician who looks like a politician, acts like a politician, and he's kind of going, hey, I'm actually a lot more regular than you'd think. Totally normal statement. Okay? And I've heard him make it a bunch of times. And the reaction from MAGA was racist, which, what kind of upside down world are we in where now it's MAGA lobbing false allegations of racism? Because he's talking to a black mayor, the mayor of Atlanta, and then as MAGA described it, a black audience. Now, what's interesting is just the quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button, the simplest, easiest, freest way, completely free, to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button. Back to the video. Even if it were an overwhelmingly black audience, I still don't think him repeating a story about, hey, I might be more likely than you think. Here's an example. I struggled with something growing up that hurt my education, like a lot of Americans. Side note, though, it actually wasn't. There were a lot of non-black people in the room. So their point about like he must have said this just because he was looking at a crowd of black people doesn't hold up to scrutiny. But here, End Wokeness said Governor Newsom to a black crowd in Georgia, I'm like you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. I can't read. So then the headline is Newsom says he's like black people because he can't read. And to me, I'm going, y'all are the ones making this racist. That's not what he said. He just was trying to cite an area where maybe he's not the pretentious politician that you would think based on his vibe of tall, slick back hair, whatever. Tim Miller said, I think this is an example of the right wing making a mistake that the left often made with Trump, making a quote go viral because they thought it was offensive, but that actually humanizes and helps the candidate. Many such cases with Trump. Gavin sounds normal and funny here. Now, you're not even going to believe where this goes, but before I show you that, this was the clip that was resurfacing that then Newsom was posting over and over in response saying, hey, even like a year ago, talking with Charlie Kirk, I made this point. And from what I remember, Charlie Kirk was not black. I'm almost certainly certain.
Started 960 SAT. I asked you about your SAT. You said,
I took the ACT.
You took the ACT, which proves two things: how young you are and how different things were. You grew up.
So he makes this point. Did I say dementia? I think I said dyslexia. I struggle with dyslexia. Even to this day, his point is he has to do different practices to be able to read speeches because just reading it like a lot of politicians can do, where like their staff writes it for them. They don't even know what's on there and they read it. He actually struggles with. It is kind of a humanizing factor. But hey, if you're Benny Johnson, you're making a thumbnail where Newsom's holding fried chicken and watermelon surrounded by AI black people with the title Gavin Newsom ends his political career live on stage. Because he repeated something he's repeated a bunch. Now, if you want to make this even funnier, take a look at this video of the crowd. It wasn't even what they were saying. Yeah. So it's so dumb. He had been saying this all the way back to his year-old interview with Charlie Kirk. If you think it's like not a good point to relate with your regular voters, as politicians are always trying to struggle to relate to, fine. But pretending like he said this because he was in a room full of black people or because he was sitting across from a black mayor is so disingenuous. And then if you yourself are a raging racist like Randy Fine, maybe you don't weigh in. He said Gavin Newsom this is the same person who recently posted, if I had to choose between dogs and Muslims, I'd choose dogs. And then Adam Kinzinger responded to that and said, you're extremely fat. And I just didn't exactly understand the relevance of that, but I do understand the denunciations of Randy Fine. I just thought that was crazy. Adam Kinzinger doesn't even engage with the post because you're extremely fat. Which is, not a substantive critique. But Randy Fine said, Gavin Newsom just said he is like a black person because he got a bad SAT score and can't read. I wish I could come up with something witty, but it's so disgusting I can't. I look forward to all my Democratic colleagues in Congress demanding his resignation tomorrow. Am I missing something? Y'all can comment if you think that I'm missing. Is this offensive to you? A multiracial audience, by the way, as you just saw there in the video, and him repeating a statement he makes a lot. Now Randy Fine is just spam posting. Are you trying to put this up, Jaden? Let's see if you can throw that up. Now Randy Fine's just spam posting photos of dogs and saying, he stands with the dogs because the Muslims are coming for them or something. Yeah, maybe you sit this one out, Randy. This is so disgusting. I can't even respond. Then Colin Wright said, did you know that Gavin Newsom was dyslexic before he brought it up last week? It's obvious what he's doing. He knows that the woke left is going to heavily penalize him for being a straight white guy. He desperately needed to surface some oppressed intersectional identity. He's talked about this a ton. And actually, if you talk to staffers around him, it's actually a cool story. Whatever you feel about Gavin Newsom, it is actually a cool story about how his dyslexia, and it was really impeding a lot of areas of life like it does for many people, but for him in politics and reading speeches, and he ended up practicing so many skills to get around it that he has unique like memorization ability and speaking abilities because of this impediment. Yes, he's talked about it a lot. So you don't have to love the guy to say that's actually an interesting part of his story. It's not about him checking off intersectional identity boxes. And so as you see here, my point about him posting this, saying, why do Republicans, this is Newsom, always play the race card? The governor told Charlie Kirk the same thing literally more than a year ago. Yeah, isn't this a weird world where now they're the ones playing the race card? Like, for so long, they went, the left makes everything about race, and, it's always about identity, and they're racializing everything, and they're playing the victim card. And now they're saying that the big issue is anti-white racism, that they are the big victims as white Christians, and that Newsom is so offensive because he made a statement about his own SAT scores. And I don't think you guys can put this in the same category as beloved Biden's whoopsie.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump and you ain't black.
Now that's something you go, all right. Now he immediately had to apologize for that. Understandably so. Okay, understandably so, because that's a wild thing to say. But please, if Trump said the same thing, MAGA would love it. Let's just be honest about that. We hold our politicians to higher standards, so we said that's inappropriate, Biden. Great, true. And when Trump goes around and says, if you're Jewish and you vote for Democrats, you should have your head examined, which I feel like is a similar level of political identity-based aggression, they love it. So I just want to say that. While I was looking for that clip, I found this one.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that on MSNBC. You did not hear that at all. What you heard, look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
Well, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do, but look, fat, look, here's the deal.
It hurts every time. He says, look, fat. I think he meant to say like Jack or something, but he just goes, look, fat.
But look, fat, look, here's the deal.
It's, sometimes you just miss the guy. You just miss the guy. And then it's like, wait, the same people. Did we see that Benny Johnson thumbnail? They're like, Newsom's racist because he repeated a story he's told a bunch of times to seem relatable in front of a multiracial audience. And we're pretending like that was racist or because of who he was sitting on the stage with. And then they make a thumbnail with racist tropes. That's the biggest self-report ever. And by the way, we're going to go into this category of topic.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. And then you saw people. I guess this is a photo from the same night. Yeah. Look, my point is, I still, even if it were like almost entirely black people, I still don't think he meant anything about it racially with that point, given that we've seen him make it so many times. In that particular context, could you word it better and not? He just segued from, hey, I'm more like you than you might think. And then he's trying to think of a way that he's not as pretentious politician as some might assume. And he thinks of the point he makes a lot about his SAT score or dyslexia. But the pairing of those two thoughts, I get how it's going to create a viral moment, going like, I'm just like you. And then you cite like, I've struggled to read or something. But given the context, no one with a normal, rational, critical thinking skill set is going to go, yeah, he meant something bad by it. But then it is particularly notable that they tried to frame this as it had to be sinister because it was all black people in the crowd. When look at this photo, I'm just saying it, at the very least, if not a majority white crowd, which are they going to call it now something different? At the very least was multiracial. And he continues to talk about this in interviews.
Who really know your story know that you are pretty severely dyslexic, but you really go into what it was like as a kid. As you said, feeling like you're dumb and like you can't get things done and understand things. And you interviewed your Aunt Cindy, your mom's sister, and she described you as a child with a disability, a scrambled brain who required a certain touch. Your parents' failure to even seek out the right professional help for you left you on an island all alone. That's kind of abuse by omission.
That's tough. God bless. She loves me, and I'm blessed. My aunt, my mom did too, but she didn't know how. I talk often in the book. She didn't have the language for some. She was a kid. Mm-hmm. She was a kid, marrying. My dad was his mid-30s.
So you just struggled with,
and she didn't know how to deal. That's why she said it's okay to be average, because she was probably just trying to get to bed, and I was trying to figure out a book report, and I wasn't reading. I was doing Cliff Notes. I was literally copying the back of Cliff Notes and putting it on a piece of paper, and it was just. And she watched me struggle and scream, and she said, "It's okay." She was basically just saying, "Just let it go." But at the time, I just thought, no, she's just consigning me to this sort of, being stuck on stupid.
But you also say that.
Okay. So we're going to see a lot of that, and here's the bummer. There's so much substantive to talk about in between Democratic candidates, criticisms of Democratic candidates, and it's hard whenever, I'll admit, a lot of times when you do a daily show like this, you're going to be reacting to a lot of things that are kind of creating the news cycle. Oh, that isn't going deeper into the issues. I try to also bring us there, but often it's just sort of, they said this and here's the truth about it. Move next thing. And it's a bummer because it takes away from what could be more thoughtful discussions. But I know we're going to get stuck in this cycle throughout the 2026 and 2028 campaign cycles of like, gosh, there's tons of time that can and should be dedicated to criticisms of the different candidates on the Democratic side. But I'm filling so much time trying to fact check the outrageous made up controversies or lies about some of the candidates. And sometimes, like I remember this in the 2024 campaign, that can come off like I'm just sitting here cheerleading someone. Biden isn't struggling at all with his age because this right-wing account lied about some clip. It's like, nah, it can come off that way. And I remember that. You remember when they would dishonestly cut some of those clips and be like, there was an invisible chair or something with Biden. You'd be like, no, there wasn't. But then people turn around and go, oh, so you were saying that he wasn't having any diminished capabilities because of his age. And it's like, what? That's not what I was saying. It's just, you're so outrageous in the lie. It feels like journalistic malpractice or commentator malpractice to not address it. Similar thing here. As Tim Miller pointed out, this is an area that helped Trump for much of his political rise, which is that we were so shocked, liberals were so shocked by Trump, that everything he would do would drive us crazy. And so he would say there's going to be a bloodbath. And he kind of is talking about economic bloodbath, but the word's a little vague. And so then all the left-wing accounts go, Trump says there's going to be like a violent bloodbath if he loses the election, to which all of the normies go, well, I saw it and it looked like he could have been talking about an economic bloodbath, and then actually serves his argument. Makes people go, oh, if they're misleading me about that, maybe all the areas he actually is getting called out correctly for being insane or lying about, maybe that's also misinterpretations. And it hurt us. We were shooting ourselves in the foot by every single time we'd grab something we found offensive, but the general public wouldn't. And then they would stop trusting the people sounding the alarm correctly about Trump. I think a similar thing is going to happen here, where MAGA's in such a fractured state of disorientation and destruction, self-immolation as a movement, that I think they're going to be very like manically freaking out about every little thing that a Democratic candidate does. And that could end up serving the Democratic candidates.